So quickly, let's continue. So our critical part, we have done critical part, and we want to look at expediting a project. And we are saying that to expedite a project, it means we are realigning the project's activities, or we are trying as much as we can to put in more resources to be able to change or to be able to make the project complete earlier than the expected schedule time. So why do we need to do that? We expedite a project when we are really behind time. So for instance, we said we want to do the project for 20 days. Okay, we want to do the project for 20 days. So by 20 days, we should be able to complete 100% of the entire project. Then by the 18th or by the 15th day, we will realize that we have only done 40% of the job. Please, I hope you're with me. We want to do a project for 20 days. So by 20 days, we should have a complete 100% project. But on the 15th day, we just realized that we have only done 40% of the job. You shouldn't be a magician to tell me that this project, if you don't take care, you might not be able to. You shouldn't be a magician to tell me that this project, I might not be able to complete it at the expected completing date, simply because by looking at it on the 15th, on the 15th day, you have now done 40% of the entire project. So what it means is that we will need more resources, or we need to do something right to be able to end the project at the expected project at the ending time. That is why we need to push in more resources. Also, when the demand for the project is very high, for instance, you live in a house where the landlord was very cool with you, okay? You live in a house where the landlord was very cool with you. Everything was fine. Then all of a sudden, the landlord begins to misbehave, shout at you, talk to you anyhow. Meanwhile, you have started building your house somewhere. But you say, oh, no, I thought I'll take my time and do my own. But the way things are going these days, I need to finish the house earlier than the time that I thought I will finish it. Then you go for a loan to complete it. Maybe you wanted to do it in 2 years. But because of what your landlord has started doing, you said, okay, let me now go for a loan and complete it in 2 months or 3 months time so that I'll just move from this place. What it means is that the demand for the project has become so high that you will need to pump in more money to get it done. Then also, if the project, the outcome of the project or the product of the project will be obsolete by the time the scheduled completion time is over. You see, there are times that you want to do something. By the time you are done with doing that particular activity, the result of that particular activity will no more be needed. For instance, during the Ghana at 50 celebration, most of the paraphernalia that were printed from China, by the time they got down here in Ghana, we have finished celebrating the Ghana at 50. So it became useless. So if you realize that if you go by the actual stipulated time, and by the time you are done with the project, all the various products of the project will be obsolete or will no more be needed or will no more be necessary, then it means that you will need it earlier than the time. So we need to expedite the project. Then the last one is that if the penalty is greater than the crash cost. So if I am supposed to pump in more money and I'll spend 5,000 cedis to expedite the project, and if I'm not able to, every project, if you're not able to meet the deadline, there is a penalty that you pay as a project manager. So for instance, I am supposed to do a project, and out of the project, if I'm not able to complete it within the scheduled days, the agreement is that if I'm not able to meet the deadline, I'm going to pay a penalty of, let's say, 10,000 cedis. But if I realize that I can add 5,000 cedis to the project and I'm able to finish it earlier than the penalty day or probably the D day, then why won't you pump in 5,000 and get it done to avoid paying 10,000 as a penalty? But if you are supposed to spend 10,000 to expedite the project and the penalty is just 5,000 cedis, then there will not be any need to complete the project. You just have to wait. When the penalty comes, you just pay your 5,000 and go your way. So if the penalty cost is greater than the crash cost, then it will be necessary for you to what? Expedite that particular project. There are two ways of expediting a project. Number one, it is either we are fast tracking the project or we are crashing. If we are fast tracking, this is what I just showed you, the fast tracking. The project was in series like this. We go back and look at the activities very well. Which of these activities can be done concurrently? Like the example I gave you in class. If you are supposed to go to the office at 8 o'clock and you wake up at 4, when you have the luxury of time, you could sit on your bed and stretch yourself very well. You could go to the toilet and sit on the toilet and just flip through your phone as long as you want to flip through, because you have the luxury of time, or you have time on your side, so you could relax. But when you are pressed with time, you wake up around 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. and realize that what you're supposed to do for the day, if you don't take care, you might not be able to get to the office at the reporting time. That is when you realize that you can brush your teeth and still poo-poo at the same time in one room. So certain activities that are supposed to be done in series, you need to rearrange them so that certain activities can now be done in concurrent manner. So if it is cooking activity, you could be setting the fire at the same time, put the charcoal in the coal pots and all the others, and you begin to chop the onions. If it is gas you are using, if you want to cook rice, as soon as you set the fire, you just put water on the fire, and you now go and think of washing the rice to come and pour it into it. So at the same time, you rearrange yourself so that you are able to do two things at the same time, or even more activity at the same time, to be able to complete the project in a very shorter period as compared to the normal project time duration. All right. So fast tracking is a process of realigning activities on a project that were originally scheduled to be performed in series to now to be performed in parallel. Fast tracking should come at little or no cost. What it means is that if we have activities in series like this, cost has already been allocated. So activity A, we know how much you're supposed to spend. Let's say we are supposed to spend 1,000 cedis here. We are supposed to spend 2,000 cedis here. We are supposed to spend 500 cedis here. And we are supposed to spend 1,000 cedis here. Because we already know the amount, when we rearrange them, it won't affect the amount of money we are supposed to spend, because each stage or each level's activity has its own allocated funds that we are supposed to spend over there. So it won't affect anything over here. All right. Now, crashing a project. If we are crashing a project, what it means is that we are pumping in more resources. Okay, we are pumping in more resources in order to be able to complete the project earlier than the stipulated time. So the process of accelerating a project using additional resources. Now, to calculate crashing time or to calculate crash, this is how we calculate it. Let me show you how it is done. So for instance, we have a curve. We have a graph here, and we have costs indicated at this time, at this side, and we have time over here. What it means is that if I have more time, I can bargain for lesser costs. Okay, if I have more time, I can bargain for lesser costs. But if I don't have time, I am not able to bargain. I am not able to bargain for more items. So if I have more time, I am able to bargain for item at a cheaper rate. But if I don't have time, I am not able to bargain. If you don't have time, what happens is that whatever somebody is offering you, because you don't have the time, you are not able to sit there and argue with the person. Okay, so when we have more time, we can take an item at a lower cost. But when we have less time, we are not able to bargain for lesser cost. And if you join it together, if you join the slope, or if you join the 2 points together, the slope of it is our crash cost per time. So crash cost is, we say crash cost per unit of time. The time can be weeks, months, days, whatever. It's equal to, so we have the normal time and the crash time. And then we have the normal cost and the crash cost. So the crash cost per unit of time is equal to the crash cost minus normal cost. That is the normal cost all over normal time minus normal time minus crash time. Let me just use CT, crash time. So to calculate for the crash cost per unit, okay, the formula is crash cost minus normal cost, the difference in Y over the difference in X. Okay, the crash cost the difference in Y over the difference in X. So crash cost minus normal cost all over normal time minus the crash time. Okay, now let's take an example. Let's take an example. I have this table. So write the formula down. I'm cleaning the formula. I hope by now you have the formula written. So I'm cleaning the formula here. So for instance, we have activity here. We have time. We have time for these two. And we have costs for these two. So for the time, we have the normal time. Then we have the crash time. Cost, we have the normal cost. And we have the crash costs. I hope you're with me. So for instance, we have activity A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. I'm just citing an example. Okay. I'm just citing an example. I don't have any example in the slide. So I'm just guessing an example from my head. So let's assume that we have activity A. We're supposed to do it in 5 days, but we want to crash it. Let me use a different pen so that, let me use a different pen. We're supposed to do it in 5 days, and we want to reduce it to 3 days. Okay. And if we're doing it for the 5 days, the normal cost was 1,500. And the crash cost will be, assuming we will be spending 1,800. Activity B, we're supposed to do it for 4 days. And we want to do it for 2 days. And the normal cost was 1,000. And our crash cost, let's say we want to spend 1,500 to do it. Activity C, the duration was 7 days, and we want to reduce it to 4 days. And this is 1,000. And we're supposed to spend, we are on activity C. We are supposed to spend, let's say 700, but we are crashing it. So we want to spend, let's say like 1,200. Activity D, we are supposed to do it for 5 days. Crash time is 5. This is 1,000. This is 1,000. E, 3, 1. I'm just guessing, I'm just guessing. So 700, and this is 1,000. F, this is 6. This is 4. This is 1,200, and this is 2,000. Activity G, let me just go this way so that I'll finish very soon. This is 1,000, 1,000, 1,500, 1,300. Please, I hope you're with me. Please, are you following? These are all guessed figures, okay? Now, in reality, okay, in reality, by the time we think of crashing a project, I am repeating it again, so please listen to me very well. In reality, by the time we think of crashing a project, then by that time, certain activities are already completed. We have completed certain activities already. What it means is that what also we are supposed to take notice of it is that we only crash activities that are on the critical path. It is not every activity we crash. There are certain activities, those activities that are not on the critical path. What is going to happen is that because they have a slack or a float, there is no need to crash them, because those activities already we can delay them and it won't affect us. But the only activities that we crash are the activities that are on the critical path. So for this very example, let's assume that activity A, activity C, activity D, and activity F and activity H are on our critical path. Let's assume that activity A, C, D, F, and H are on our critical path. We only crash activities that are on our critical path. Then again, if we are crashing activities, we crash those with a higher cost first. We crash those with the activities that have higher costs. We crash those ones first before we crash the smaller ones. But for the sake of this very example, we are going to crash only those that are on critical path, and we are going to do it from the top to the down. So for instance, for us to crash activity A, so crash costs per unit of time, as we said, is equal to the crash cost minus the normal cost all over normal time minus crash time. If we substitute activity A, our crash cost is what? 1,800. 1,800 minus the normal cost, which is 1,500, all over the normal time. The project was supposed to last for 5 days, and we want to do it for 3 days, so which is 3. So this is going to be 300 all over 2. So this will give us 150. So the crash cost per unit of time for activity A will be 150. Assuming we are dealing in cedis. Assuming we are dealing in cedis, then it means activity A will cost us 150 cedis. If you do for activity C, and I'm saying we only crash activities that are on critical path. So for activity C, it is going to be 1,200 minus 700. 12 minus 7 will give us what? 500 over the actual time was 7 days, and we want to reduce it to 4. So it's going to be 7 minus 4, giving us 3. And this one will give us one. If you do this one, it's going to be 166.67. Okay, 66666. So 2 decimal place, 1666.67. Now let's go to activity F. If you do the calculation, activity D will give you 0. What it means is that it's going to be 1,000 minus 1,000 over 5 minus 5. So 0 over 0. What this 0 means is that this activity, it's something you cannot do anything about it. You can't crash it. For instance, if you are doing concrete work, what it means is that if you do the concrete, you need to wait for certain days for the concrete to harden before you can perform other activities. And that what it means is that you cannot reduce that particular activity. So that is why I deliberately did 5 for you to know that in reality, it is not every activity you can crash. Now let's do for that of F. So 2,000 minus 1,200 will be 800. 800 divided by, so 6 minus 4 will be 2. So 800 divided by 4, that should give us 400 here. Then the last one, 1,300 minus 1,000 will be 300. 300 divided by 2 would be 150. Okay, so when you are done with it, to find the crash cost per unit of time is to add all these figures together. So crash cost per unit of time, probably if you are dealing with days, what it means is that the total will be 866.67. So every day we'll be spending this amount of money to crash the projects. Okay, what it means is that every day, if the unit of time is days, it means that every day this is an amount of money we need to spend to crash the projects. Sally Ampim, please check your maths very well. So that is our crash costs. Okay, now what does it mean? What it means is that we use crash costs You are saying it was activity was C, but we didn't crash. Activity C is 166.67. Oh, okay. Thank you, Sally. I get you now. I understand. All right. So crashing cost helps for improving resources productivity. Then changing the work method, it helps us to change the work method and also increasing the quantity of resources. Okay, so managers need crashing to help them to be able to do this. What are the managerial consideration? It helps managers to be able to determine certain activities that have those that have fixed costs and variable costs. Then it helps them to also to crash project at certain point. So the crash point is the fully expedited activity. It also helps them to optimize time, cost, and trade-off, because you are trying to trade between time and costs. Okay, you are trying to trade costs with time. So I want to finish the project in 5 days, and because of that, I need to put in more money to be able to finish the project in 2 days. So it's a trade-off between time and cost. And it also helps to shorten certain activities on the critical path. Okay, and we will not crash an activity when the targeted completion time has reached. If the project has gotten to its completion date, there's no need to crash again. Then the crashing cost, when the crashing cost also exceeds your penalty cost, how much you're supposed to spend is higher than the penalty you are supposed to pay, then there will not be any need to crash the project. Okay, so that is our crashing situation here. So there are examples that you can try your hands on. Okay, this is for 63 days, 63 weeks, and costs are in dollars. Okay, so you have the normal cost, the crash cost. So for you to be able to do this very example, you are supposed to draw the diagram, do the critical part, do the Gantt charts, use it to calculate costs, and the cost will help you to do the all other things. Okay, so the minimum cost and the normal costs. So a project that an activity that's supposed to last for 14 days is being crashed to 9 days, and if the normal cost was 500 and the crash cost would be 1,500. So you can try your hands on this very example when you are when we finish the class. Okay, you can try your hands on this very assignment. The penalty you are saying, Elias Tindani, but you penalty cost. If I'm not able to finish a project, and the one who gave me the assignment to do says that if you're not able to finish this project, I'll charge you 10,000 cedis. And if I realize that getting to the end of the project, I'm almost hitting the deadline, and if I'm able to spend extra 2,000 money, I'll be able to finish it, and I'll not have to pay their penalty cost. That is our crash cost. Okay, so you are crashing your project by spending more money to finish it, so that you don't go and pay a penalty to the one who the owner of the project. That's what we call the penalty costs. The last thing we want to look at is that the controversies in the network diagram. The network can be too complex. You know what? All that we did, we drew a very simple network diagrams, okay? But certain network diagrams are very, very complex. Some network diagrams are very, very, very complex. Certain network diagrams are very complex. Okay. In this diagram, if you are doing the forward and backwards part, and if you don't take care, you mix out. Poor network construction will create problems. So if you don't construct your network very well, it can create problem. Then network may also be used inappropriately. Then when employing a subcontractor, for instance, this activity here has been subcontracted to somebody to do it on our behalf. What it means is that the master network must be available to that particular person, because this person should not look at this activity as an isolated activity. Because don't forget that the completion of this very activity will begin another activity. This activity here depends on this very activity. So if this person delays, this activity will delay and the project will end up delaying. So whoever works must be given the entire network, the master network. All sub-network must be use common methods, and positive bias may also exist within the PET network. This brings us to the end of our time management series. And I'll quickly run you through the costs, and we'll call it a day, because I have other activities to take care of it today. Is there any question? Any questions so far? Jessica, what question did you ask that I didn't answer? There is a little bit of I won't say calculation, but it's not anything so serious at the extreme end of this particular unit. That's why I want to treat it. Other than that, you might have to go and do it. Oh, but when you are saying Mabel, you said when crashing, do you always have to assume for the critical part? No. But you know how we have just learned how to calculate the critical part. So know your critical part. You only crash the activity on critical part. Jessica, your question is not clear to me. The new cost for an activity will be the crashing cost plus the normal cost, or will it be the cost per unit? We are talking about, if you look at the table here, okay, these are days, but how will you know per unit of time? So this activity A, what it means is that this 150 that we are looking at is going to be the amount of money you are spending every day. So if this is we are crashing it for 3 days, then it means per unit of time, this is going to be the amount of money you are spending per every, if it's in days. So we are using it to calculate the per unit of time. Is that okay? Very good. Aye Daniel, a very good answer for Afezi. A very good answer for him. Please, time. Let me quickly go through the planning, okay? And I won't spend. I hope by 30 to 45 minutes, I will be through with this, because I have other engagements to take care of. After, if you don't take care, I'll put you in waiting room and you will not be able to join the class again. All right. So project planning and cost estimation.